The difference between successful people and non-successful people is just what goes on in here.
Steve Harvey is the guy who can turn even the most awkward Family Feud answer into pure comedy. With his charm and sharp sense of humor, he didn't just make people laugh. He built an entire empire and became a voice millions admire. For decades, Harvey has brought joy to audiences while showing what real perseverance looks like. He has inspired countless people with his story of never giving up. But his road to success was far from easy. Behind the spotlight, he carried pain that never fully healed. Years of loneliness, and struggles so heavy that even fame and money couldn't protect him from them. To understand this, we have to go back to where it all began, his childhood. The boy with a dream. Born in a small, poor town in West Virginia in 1957, Steve Harvey's childhood was tough. His family had very little money. His dad was a coal miner, and his mom was a teacher who had to make every dollar count. Life got even tougher when they relocated to a challenging neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. As a child, Steve's dreams seemed impossible. He had a severe stutter, making him an easy target for bullies. One day in elementary school, his teacher asked the class to write down their biggest dreams. A young Steve, with a vision far bigger than his circumstances, wrote that he wanted to be on TV. The class erupted in laughter, and his teacher, dismissive and cruel, ripped up his paper, telling him his dream was impossible. But his father had a different message. He told Steve to rewrite the dream, hang it on his wall, and read it every single day and night. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a promise. That childhood dream became the fire that pushed Steve forward. Even when life seemed impossible, when money was tight, when people doubted him, and when he felt like giving up, he would look at that piece of paper and remember his father's words. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a mission, chasing his dream. After high school, Steve drifted from job to job, searching for something that felt right. He sold insurance, cleaned carpets, worked as a mailman, and even tried his hand at boxing. But nothing gave him purpose. His dream of being on TV felt as far away as ever. Then, in 1985, a friend pushed him to try an open mic night at a comedy club. Nervous and unsure, Steve walked onto the stage. His first joke fell flat, but then the audience started laughing. And once they did, they couldn't stop. That night, the host handed him $50, and Steve knew instantly he had found his calling. The very next morning, he quit his job. But that was just the beginning. For the next 3 years, he was homeless, living out of his old 1976 Ford. He survived on bologna sandwiches, showered at gas stations, and drove for miles only to perform at tiny, unknown clubs. The loneliness and poverty were relentless, and he often found himself wondering if the sacrifices were worth it. Yet he never gave up. He held on to his father's advice. Write your dream down and read it every day. Just as he was about to throw in the towel, he got 2 messages on his answering machine. One was a job offer from Showtime at the Apollo. It was the thing that finally took Steve Harvey's career to new heights. Into the spotlight. In 1990, the boy who once stuttered in a small classroom finally stood under the bright lights of the legendary Apollo Theater in Harlem. He had made it as a finalist in a national comedy contest, and this time, the voice that used to tremble was now full of confidence. The crowd roared with laughter and applause, and in that moment, Steve Harvey knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. That stage became his next stop. For the next 7 years, Steve hosted Showtime at the Apollo, one of the most famous showcases for rising talent in America. Every time he stepped on stage, he turned the struggles of his past into jokes that made people laugh and cheer. He transformed the trauma of sleeping in his car into a comedy routine that healed his own wounds. His comedy wasn't just entertainment, it was survival. And in 1996, his life changed again when The Steve Harvey Show premiered. The sitcom was a massive hit, proving that Steve was no longer just a comedian. He was living proof that perseverance could turn an impossible dream into an incredible reality. But all this success didn't come easy for him. The price of success. Fame brought success, but it also came with a steep price. His schedule got busy, filled with performances, television work, hosting duties, and writing. The man who once craved recognition now found himself with less time for the quiet moments with his kids or being present at family events. From 1997 to 2000, Steve joined forces with comedy legends Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hewley, and the late Bernie Mac for the Kings of Comedy tour. This wasn't just a series of shows, It was a cultural phenomenon. They packed stadiums across the country, selling out venues night after night and raking in tens of millions of dollars. For a man who once feared he'd be forgotten, hearing thousands of people chant his name was a surreal and powerful feeling. This deafening applause and widespread recognition validated every sacrifice he had made. The lonely nights in his car, the bologna sandwiches, and the endless miles on the road, it all led to this. But all of this was consuming the most precious thing he had, time with his family. While the world celebrated his success, Steve quietly carried the pain of missed birthdays, empty seats at family dinners, and the moments with his children that he could never get back. But beyond the quiet pain of these missed moments, a public storm was about to change everything in his career. Major setbacks and comebacks. Fame isn't always easy to carry. In December 2015, on the world stage of the Miss Universe pageant, Steve made one of the biggest mistakes of his career. He read the wrong name and crowned the wrong winner. Millions of people were watching. The man who built his career with his voice suddenly saw his proudest moment turn into a public nightmare. The internet lit up with jokes and memes, and many thought his career was over. Steve later admitted he feared that just 60 seconds had destroyed everything he had worked for. But instead of hiding, Steve did the unimaginable. He chose to face the failure head-on. The very next year, he returned to host the pageant again, proving that true strength isn't about being perfect. It's about having the courage to get back on stage after a major stumble. Another setback came in 2019 when his talk show, Steve, was abruptly canceled. He learned the news from the media, but on his final broadcast, he wasn't bitter or angry. Instead, he calmly told his audience, "This is just a new chapter." It was another reminder of his quiet strength, the ability to keep moving forward, even when the world expected him to fall apart. Overcoming personal battles. Even with all this success, his personal life was filled with struggles. His ambition, the very thing that drove him to success, ultimately fractured his first marriage to Marcia and distanced him from their 3 children. He was often on the road, sleeping in his car, and as he later admitted, he lost his family while chasing his dream. The marriage ended in 1994, leaving him heartbroken. His second marriage to Mary Shackelford also crumbled under the relentless pressure of his career. Their 2005 divorce was a painful public spectacle, and the worst part for Steve was the hurt he saw in his son's eyes. After the divorce, Steve was in a devastating financial spiral. He was nearly broke, and to his horror, discovered he hadn't filed taxes for 7 years. He was facing massive debt and the very real possibility of prison. But the fighter in him took over. He went into overdrive, working relentlessly. He launched radio shows, took on many speaking engagements, and wrote books, including the mega bestseller Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, all to pay off his staggering debt. Then, in 2010, he landed the gig that would change everything, hosting Family Feud. Within 3 years, the show's ratings skyrocketed. The man who once lived in his car was now a nightly face in millions of homes. His journey proved that true success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about having the grit to keep fighting, no matter what. Steve Harvey's life is a powerful story of someone who reached the highest levels of fame and fell many times, both publicly and privately. He faced huge problems, from painful divorces to money troubles, but he never gave up. What part of his story did you like the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss out on our future videos. Until then, see ya.